Hi, my name is Ms.Blagg, and today we will talk about quadratic formula. Okay, today we're discussing the quadratic formula, which is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. This method is used for solving quadratic formulas in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where you plug in a, b, and c into the formula as long as the equation is already set to 0. Remember, you must set your equation equal to 0 to define your a, b, and c. Okay, our first example, we're going to make sure our equation is in the quadratic form where it's set equal to 0 so we can define our a, b, and c. A is always the coefficient in front of x squared, so a equals 5. B is our coefficient including the sign in front of x, so b equals negative 14. And c is the constant, so c equals negative 3. Be sure you include the signs in front of each number. Now we're going to put in our a, b, and c into our formula. So looking at our formula, we're going to just solve for x, which equals negative. I'm going to use parentheses for each number. So negative b, I'll have a negative 14. Be sure you put that negative in there. Plus or minus the square root. Again, I'm going to use parentheses where I'm substituting b squared. So that will be negative 14 squared minus 4, that's always a 4, times a times c. In place of a, I'm going to put 5. In place of c, I'll put negative 3. All over 2 times a, which is 2 times 5. Once you have all the numbers into the formula, you use order operations to break it down. So we're going to get rid of all of our parentheses and our exponents. So minus the negative, we know that becomes a positive 14, plus or minus. Negative 14 squared becomes a positive 196. And then multiplying here, this is all multiplication. I always say count your negatives. I see 2 negatives there, which tells me I know I'm going to have a plus, and then I just multiply the numbers. 4 times 5 is 20, times 3 is 60. All over 2 times 5, which is 10. Keep going. You want to break down your radical as far as you can. I have 14 plus or minus 196 plus 60 is 256 over 10. We always see if we can simplify our square root, and we can. The square root of 256 is a perfect square of 16. So I have 14 plus or minus 16 over 10. Don't stop here. When the radical's gone, you can actually do the addition and subtraction. So we have 2 solutions. We have 14 plus 16 over 10, which becomes 30 over 10, which equals 3. We also have 14 minus 16 over 10, which equals negative 2 over 10, which would reduce the fraction down to negative 1/5, and those are our 2 solutions for x. Second example, we're going to look at our equation and see it's not equal to 0, so we need to move the 7 to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 7 to this side, leaving me with 8m squared minus 2m minus 7 equals 0. Now I can define my a, b, and c. A equals 8, b equals negative 2, and c equals negative 7. Plugging a, b, and c into my formula, x would equal negative, again, I'm going to use parentheses, negative b, which is negative 2, plus or minus b squared, that would be negative 2 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 8, times c, which is negative 7, all over 2 times a, again, which is 8. Continuing, doing the order of operations, we have minus a negative 2, which would become positive 2 to remove that parentheses, plus or minus Negative 2 squared would be positive 4. Again, count your negative signs. I have 2 negative signs, negative 4 and negative 7. That's going to, when we multiply that out, become positive 224 all over 2 times 8, which is 16. Your next step from there, 2 plus or minus the square root of 228 all over 16. 228 is not a perfect square, but it will simplify. You can break it down to be 2 plus or minus 4 times 57 over 16. 4 comes out as a perfect square to be 2 plus or minus 2, that's the square root of 4, leaving 57 on the inside, all over 16. We can't add or subtract because of the square root, but you can look at the numbers outside the, on the outside they all reduce by 2, so reducing each one by 2 would give me 1 plus or minus 1 times square root of 57, you don't have to show that one, over 2 goes into 16, reduces 8. So my two solutions are 1 plus square root of 57 over 8 and 1 minus square root of 57 over 8. Okay, example 3, our equation is already set equal to 0, so we can define A again. A is 1. If you don't see a number in front of the variable, you know the coefficient is 1. B is positive 6, and C is positive 13. Plugging into our formula, x equals, again, we have negative b, which is 6, plus or minus the square root of b, 6 squared, minus 4 times a is 1 and c is 13, all over 2 times a, which is 1. Simplifying, we get negative 6, because there's only one negative there, plus or minus. Positive 6 squared is positive 36. There's only one negative sign. Negative 4 times 1 times 13 would be 52, all over 2 times 1, which is 2. Now we have negative 6 plus or minus, simplifying inside the radical. 36 minus 52 is negative 16, again, all over 2. You always want to simplify your radical, and this is a perfect square with a negative inside, which is an imaginary number, so we end up with 6 plus or minus 4i over 2. Now, you cannot add a real and an imaginary number, but again, you can reduce all three of these numbers by 2, which would simplify this to be negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. Plus or minus 4 divided by 2 is 2i. So my two solutions are negative 3 plus or minus 2i. Example 4, we have y squared minus 8 equals 4y. We need to make the equation equal 0. Again, I'm going to subtract my 4y over to the left side. Be sure you write your equation in descending order, though, to find your a, b, and c. So we have y squared minus 4y minus 8, and that then equals 0. Defining our a, b, and c, again, a equals 1, again, when you don't see a number in front of the coefficient. B equals, take the sign, negative 4, and c equals negative 8. Plugging into our formula, we have y is going to equal negative, again, b, we're going to put in negative 4, plus or minus b squared, which would be negative 4 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, and c, which is negative 8, all over 2 times a, which is 1. Simplifying further, again, minus a negative to get rid of the parentheses, that becomes positive 4, plus or minus, simplify inside the radical, get rid of the exponents. Negative 4 squared is positive 16. Multiplying negative 4 times negative 8 times 1 would be positive 32. And that is all over 2. 2 times 1 is 2. Going up here just to finish the problem, we have 4 plus or minus, do what's inside the radical, 16 plus 32, which is 48, all over 2. Again, 48 is not a perfect square, but it can simplify. You can actually break down 48 to be 16 times 3. And if you take the square root of 16, it will come out as a 4. So we have 4 plus or minus. The square root of 16 is 4, leaving a 3 on the inside, 2 underneath. You can still simplify further. Each one has a number outside that reduces by 2, leaving you with 2 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 3 over 1, and you do not have to show the 1. So those are your two solutions.